Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video.
I found out about my husband's affair purely by luck. And thank the heavens because I don't know how long he was going to fool me. He bought me a new ring on my birthday that was too loose for my size. I asked him for the receipt so I could go in and get it exchanged, but fortunately, he had left a bag with the receipt in it at his office. I asked him to bring it home the next day, but it must have slipped his mind. He apologized and offered to get the ring exchanged by himself, but I told him I can wait a little longer. The next day, a friend of mine asked me to meet her for lunch, and the address she sent was a few blocks away from the jewelry store my husband got the ring from. I absolutely hate going outside more than what's required, so I decided to go over to my husband's office and pick up the receipt on my way to meet my friend. I usually call him or leave a text before going into his office, but luckily that day his phone was switched off. Thinking that even if I don't find him there, I can always just grab the bag and leave, I went over. That's how I ended up seeing my husband having an affair with his assistant. It was lunch hour, so they were walking out of the building as I was going in. I called after him, but he didn't hear me, so I sprinted towards him. Before I could make my presence known, he grabbed her hand and started walking towards a cafe nearby. I quickly hid myself and decided to see what's happening here. I was sure there was going to be an explanation for this and quickly dismissed what my own eyes saw. But then he kissed her on the head before sitting down at his side, and no matter how much of a close friend she was, there's no explaining that gesture. The whole time they had lunch, he was holding her hand, and the intimate gestures were hard to ignore as innocent actions. I did record the whole thing on my phone, but I came back home soon after. The shock of finding out the truth about something I had no inkling about was very hard to process. That night, I confronted my husband while he kept denying everything. When I showed him the video, he said he just has an intimate bond with his assistant and it's nothing I should worry about. The blatant lie was an insult to my intelligence, and that was like a slap to my face. I always thought he loved and respected me, but in that moment it felt like I'm seeing our whole relationship through someone else's perspective. I was blind all that time to not notice the signs, and now that it's been almost more than a month, I can remember small details that were clear red flags. After he refused to accept that he's having an affair, I decided to take him to court. I wanted a divorce and told my mother-in-law about this. In my 8 years of marriage, my in-laws have always been the kindest to me. Not once did I find myself being uncomfortable in their presence. I trusted them, just like I trust my parents, and ended up telling mother-in-law about what's going on in our married life. And she sympathized with me. When I told her about how I caught them, she started consoling me and saying how I am wronged and her son should have known better. She said she'll have a talk with him, and I don't have to worry about anything. But no way was I going to settle for her having a talk with her son. I told her how I've already made up my mind and there's no going back now. I even showed her the video as proof. Instantly, her whole demeanor changed about my situation. She said I can't divorce him or defame him in any way. She said I should understand that affairs are very common statistically and marriages don't break over it. In her eyes, it was just a mistake that he wouldn't repeat, but for me, it was the first and the last strike. She started laughing at me for even suggesting I'm going to file a case for adultery and told me to not overestimate my power. She said, if I tried going down this road, she'll make sure they destroy me in court. That's how I knew blood indeed runs thicker. I left the house after seeing the true faces of my in-laws. I've been living with my sister since then and looking for an apartment. I contacted the same lawyer that my mom hired during her divorce and filed a case against my husband. The video was submitted as evidence and everything was going smoothly until I found out that my in-laws were indeed serious about playing dirty in court. They paid someone to pretend as my ex and say that I'm the one who was having an affair. It was a play to discredit my adultery claim and to get out of paying me alimony. The worst part is that the guy they paid was actually one of my closest friends, so there were pictures of us together that weren't fabricated. I knew he was having financial problems, but never expected him to betray me like that. The court gave another date to present the counter-argument, and I had to beg my friends to be witnesses and help me out by telling them how my friendship with the guy was only a friendship and nothing more. The divorce proceedings have yet not concluded, but we were able to prove that my in-laws lied and harmed the legal proceedings by submitting fake evidence. The court filed another case against them and they were sentenced to 6 months in prison and a fine of $1,500 for contempt of court. My friend who helped them by lying was sentenced for 4 months in prison, a fine of $2,000, and community service for civil perjury. This happened yesterday, and I was so overwhelmed with all the emotions that I couldn't help but break down in front of my 4-year-old daughter. She might still be a kid, but she understands that crying is a sad thing. And since then, she's been asking me, why am I crying, and why is Daddy not here to give me a hug? I don't know how to explain to her what her parents are going through, and that's why she still doesn't know about our divorce. She thinks we're visiting her aunt for vacation, and her excitement for meeting her cousins has so far helped to distract her from asking me why Daddy isn't coming to visit too. But yesterday was a disaster, and now she knows something is wrong. Children can be very perceptive at times, and I can see it on her face how she's sad for me. Yet I cannot bring myself to tell her what's going on. Am I the a-hole here? Should I try to explain to her the truth or keep stalling the matter until she's big enough to understand? I feel like if I tell her, she'd lose her innocence. Am I being a bad mother here? I decided that we needed to have a talk with our daughter. No matter what went on in our lives or how difficult it got for us, there's no denying that both of us love our daughter equally. I asked my husband not to call us before leaving his house, as I wanted nothing to do with him, but my relationship is different from the relationship that my daughter has with her father, and it's solely because I wanted her to have a chance of growing up with a dad that I asked him to come over while we told her some part of our truth. Of course, the cheating isn't something she needs to know for now, but it's imperative that she understands she'll have 2 homes from now on. I only left a text for my husband and was doubting if he'd show up. Thankfully, he didn't disappoint this time, and I respect him for the small humanity he has in him. We finally told our daughter about how Mommy and Daddy are going to live separately, and she asked us if we are having a fight. I had to try hard not to cry in front of her, and my husband took over. He told her that we're not fighting, we just have different things that we like, and we're going to live separately so we each can enjoy what we like. What else do you even tell a 4-year-old? No matter how smart she is for her age, nothing would make this change any easier and one day she will find out the whole truth. I just hope that at least until then I could preserve her innocence. A lot of you were asking this question, so I decided to clarify it here. No, my husband didn't go to jail with my in-laws because he was unaware of them lying. At least he was able to prove in court that he had no clue that I was not having an affair with my friend. In his own words, my in-laws told him that they hired a PI to dig up dirt on me, and he found out about my non-existent affair. Being the a-hole that my husband is, he jumped at the first chance of blaming this all on me and didn't question his parents even once. Although I still have my doubts, considering how he was well aware of my friend group, he was able to convince the judge that he's innocent and thus avoided punishment for being an associate. Last 8 months have been the longest of my life, and I sincerely wish no one has to go through this experience. The custody battle was a nightmare, and the main reason for the divorce procedure to drag out for so long. My husband was willing to give me a very high alimony along with half of his assets as long as I let him have a majority of parental rights and only got visitation rights for myself. No way in hell was I willing to let him win that easily, so I fought hard against that. My not having a job was a huge factor in the beginning, but I was able to get a job a few months ago and the salary was high enough that being able to provide for her care wasn't that great of a factor in the decision making. It was decided in the end that I'll have my daughter for the weekdays while she goes to stay with my husband during weekends. We live close by, so traveling isn't a problem, and I'll have to be happy with this arrangement for now. I'm just glad that the divorce is finalized and I can start moving forward in my life. NTA, not the a-hole. It's hard sometimes to tell your kids the reality, and you should take your time with that. NTA, she's just 4. She has a long way to go, and you trying to protect her innocence is something all mothers try to do. There's no right or wrong choice here. Just try to tell her gradually about how things would be from now on, and with time, she'll understand you. In 2014, my grandma was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she moved in with my family. When she got better, she moved out, and I would stay at her place during the weekends and holidays. And then a few years later, she was diagnosed with a distant reoccurrence. My mom and I would spend hours with her in the hospital. When she spent a month in hospice before passing, I spent the entire month with her every night. When she passed, she had all her shit in order. She already told my mom and I who got what and gave her jewelry and prized possessions to us and my sister. The family heard about this and were upset about it, but kept most of their thoughts to themselves. What they didn't know is that my grandma had money she kept out of the will. She gave my mom some money and I got some too. My mom and I were the 2 people who cared for her the most. We spent all of our time with her. My grandma knew that her brothers and my mom's brother would contest the will and give us pain if they knew about the money. So she organized all these years before she passed. Well, it has been a year since she passed, and my great uncle held a family dinner at his place. Since my grandma's passing, we've kept our distance from everyone, but they kept on pestering my mom until she said yes. At the dinner, my great uncle and my mom's brothers confronted my mom and I about the money. We have no idea how they found out. My parents stood up and were ready to tell them, back off, but I thought it was all ridiculous that they had the audacity to find out and not tell us how they found out, and also question it after everything, so I told them the real reason. My grandma went through hell and back in her life and did everything for everyone as the eldest daughter of an immigrant family. And when she needed her family the most, everyone left. They would only show up at the hospital for half an hour max and once a week. And when they came, they would only ask about her possessions. Everyone knew how stressed my family was. I was still in high school and started uni, and my mom had given birth to my baby sis and stopped working at this time. No one would ever volunteer to help or anything. When she died, no one contacted my mom to check up on her, and my grandma knew this, which is why she left nothing to any of them. This turned into a huge argument. Everyone called me disrespectful and inconsiderate of their lives, that they had things going on and I'm just a child, so I wouldn't understand. We left, and all of our phones had been blowing up with messages and calls from the family, calling us names. I've blocked all of them, and my dad has been telling my mom too, but she reads every message. That is what hurts the most. They're calling her a bad mom and talking shit about me to her, and I feel like it's all my fault for opening my mouth. So maybe I shouldn't have told them and just denied it? AITA? NTA, I'm so sorry for the loss of your grandmother. It was incredibly kind and loving of you and your family to be with her and care for her during her last years. It's very clear that your grandmother knew the extended family very well and was able to clearly predict their behaviors. And they are upset at being called out for having been less than they should have. Hold your head up. Your parents have your back. Go hug your mom. It sounds like this is going to be hard on her. Keep in mind you did nothing wrong. They wanted to know why they got nothing. You answered their question with the truth. NTA, it's so easy to second guess yourself after the fact. Maybe you should have not said anything. But the fact is, you were brave enough to confront their stinking attitude. Thing is, with people who care about themselves first, it's difficult to get them to see a different perspective. And that it's about caring for someone else without making excuses. I feel sorry for your mom, who seems to take their words and attitude to heart. Maybe you could apologize for the consequences that you weren't able to predict. But no, you're not the a-hole. Your uncaring relatives are. I, 14 male, bought a phone 3 weeks ago after doing garden work, buying groceries for neighbors, etc. This entire process took 6 months. I wouldn't say I'm spoiled because I pay for most of my stuff. But anyway, I could finally buy a phone. So a friend and I rode our bikes to our local shop where I bought the phone. After a few minutes of counting the money, we were good to go. So we rode back to my friend's house to set up the phone. My dad was proud of me for working by myself to buy a new phone. He taught me the value of money at a young age. But my mom was disappointed that I bought a phone instead of new books for my school. After a week of having the phone, I almost accidentally set fire to my kitchen. The phone was in my room, but it had nothing to do with the situation. But I just accepted the punishment. My mom asked for my phone, so obviously I gave it to her. She lent it back to me a few days later. Ever since then, she has been taking my phone over small mistakes. Tripped because of an untied shoelace. It's the phone's fault. I was tying my shoelaces, but my phone was next to me. Missed one chord while playing the piano. It's the phone's fault. I was using the phone before I started playing. Getting one wrong answer on the math test. Guess what? It's the phone's fault. I got the phone the same week I took the test. I was confused about it, so I asked her, "Why are you taking my phone from me if you did not pay for it?" She took my phone again. I took the phone back. So ever since then, I walk to my friend's house to keep my phone in a safe. 3 keys locked with all his other valuable belongings. So I ask again, am I in the right or in the wrong? I will gladly accept any YTAs or negative feedback. NTA, your mother does not seem to hold respect for you. She is doing what a middle manager would do if you dared question them, bullying you to make you never even dare to disobey any order she could give you in the future. Yours is not a long term solution since she can pressure you in different ways than taking away your phone. If your father is on your side, ask him to mediate because this is the only thing which could help. NTA, it's really strange your mom is taking your phone as punishment when that is something you earned with your own money, especially over small things. I can understand after the kitchen incident why she might want to hold it if you are in there cooking so you aren't distracted. But the other times seem like she's punishing you for really small transgressions, and it shouldn't be your phone she takes, but a privilege your parents gave you. Is your phone a better model than hers? Is there evidence she's been using it during these times she has confiscated it? I can't tell if she just wants your phone for herself and is jealous, or if she's doing this as a really bizarre power play. I don't think there's an issue with you leaving it at your friend's place, although the amount of locks might seem excessive. If it's not on you, there's literally zero reasons for your mom to be trying to confiscate it. For real, though, confiscating your phone, just for asking why she keeps confiscating your phone, is next level. Hope you can get to a place where you can enjoy the phone you've earned for yourself soon, OP. If you trust it at your friend's place for now, there's nothing wrong with leaving it there, and your mom has no right to demand it for no good reason. NTA, but why don't you talk to your dad about this to get it stopped? Your mother has no right to take away your property for irrelevant mistakes. And as a minor, she should be providing the books for your school. You should not have to pay for them yourself. It's literally her responsibility.